There is no question that this coin right here is the most significant bullion coin in the world. I'll talk about that and how another coin has just made history. Let's explore. Gold bullion coins. It empowers the investor, the ones that want to protect against economic instability, but even more importantly, to store some of your wealth outside of the financial system and the monetary systems around the world. The Krugerrand, the South African Krugerrand, was the first time that a 1 ounce gold bullion coin was offered back in 1967. And it is without a doubt the most important coin because it set the stage for all other bullion coins to come and make their marks. And such as the case behind you, you can see the American Eagle. And, you know, usually then we see new nations around the world offering gold bullion coins, such as Spain being the latest. Nonetheless, before the age of the Krugerrand, there were bullion coins with odd weights and measures, although some of those odd weights and measures essentially are the standard and were the prior standards. But when you think about a full ounce of gold, you think about the Krugerrand. The Krugerrand has been referenced oftentimes in many television programs, movies, and the like, and even to this day, in the modern age, we see it being discussed and referred to. Nonetheless, there's another big change that has happened. Now, we have things like the Krugerrand and the American Eagle. The American Eagle gold bullion program took the world by storm in 1986 when it was first introduced. It had a reverse from a classic design, Augustus St. Gaudens. I kind of wish they would have carried that obverse or carried the reverse along with the obverse for the program, but indeed they did not. The legislation called for a family of eagles to be portrayed here. And that's exactly what happened. And it made big news when the design was changed in 2021 during the mid part of that year to the current design, which is the very close-up view of the bald eagle there, the head of the bald eagle. So when essentially this is the head side of the coin, even though it's not the obverse, but I digress. That was a pretty big moment. But what I'm about to share with you now is an even bigger historic moment. And it revolves around the Canadian maple leaf. Yes, indeed. So let's move this coin out of the way because it does have something to do with how this program has shifted over the years. And this news that I'm going to share with you and show you, stay tuned because I'm going to show you what it is the biggest change that we've seen in the program of the Royal Canadian Mint and bullion coins in general. In fact, for a lot of the Commonwealth coins around the world. But let's talk a little bit about the Canadian maple leaves. The Canadian maple leaf was first introduced after what happened in South Africa. The South African gold Krugerrand was introduced by the South African Mint in 1967 as the first ever gold bullion coin for private investors. A bull market in the 70s inspired more sovereign mints to consider introducing their own gold bullion coin series. The Royal Canadian Mint was the first to act on this. That was a game changer and that was big news. But it wasn't just the bull market for gold that inspired the decision. No, it wasn't. The South Africa's apartheid system had resulted in economic sanctions placed on the nation by Western powers. So as a result, South African gold Krugerrands were no longer readily available through the North American and European markets. So this is what has caused the Royal Canadian Mint to introduce their gold coin. And they did so in 1979. But in 1979, they were 3/9 fine gold. They were the first pure gold coin offered. And they're also to this day, the only one to provide these coins with a smaller diameter and thicker coin, which I like. I like the smaller diameter. And so this is the the Royal Canadian Mint Maple Leaf in 1979 introduced. By late November of 1982, the Royal Canadian Mint increased their gold content. They upped it even again, even before the United States Mint came out with their coins, to 4/9 pure gold. The Royal Canadian Mint were ahead of their time, and really amazing what has happened. Now, let's talk a little bit about the obverse, because this is where the change takes place. And it's big news when there's a change in design for any bullion coin, but for the Royal Canadian Mint, they have different effigies of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth. And she's so far, until now, to be the only monarch to appear on sovereign nation coins of the Commonwealth. In 1979 through 1989, for 10 years, Arnold Machin's second-generation portrait of Elizabeth II was featured on the coins. And then that's this design here, known as the long neck Lizzie. This is probably one of my favorite designs that of the Queen Elizabeth that I see on the Royal Canadian Mint products. From 1990 to 2003, that's 13 years, Dora de Pedere Hunt offered up the first ever bust of Queen Elizabeth II by a Canadian artist, and this was the third generation design for Canadian coins in general. And in 2004 to 2023, the longest ever period of time to have a portrait on a Canadian coin or any of the Commonwealth nation coins is this version. The Suzanne Blunt's fourth generation design marked the second bust of Elizabeth II by a Canadian artist and the first of the Queen's reign to lack a crown. Yes, indeed. And usually the Queen does have a crown for her coinage, but they buck tradition there. It is also the worst portrait, in my opinion, ever of the Queen on any of the coins out there. But it is the longest lasting from 2004 to 2023. And in 2023, even though the Queen passed in 2022, well, we had this portrait with a double-dated design there on this Canadian silver maple leaf. So it's a memorial portrait there. So there's that. But now, for the first time ever, the Canadian Mint has introduced a new effigy for the new king, King Charles III. And that is the history-making aspect of gold coins, and such an important gold bullion coin. It is the first time ever that we've seen a switching of the monarchs for gold and, by extension, silver products. But the Canadian Mint is the first mint to produce a pure gold bullion coin. They are the second mint to produce a gold bullion coin in general, and they are the first mint to show a change in the obverse with a completely new monarch, and that's exactly what you see here. So from 2024, starting in 2024, Stephen Rosati created not only the first ever portrait of His Majesty King Charles II for Canadian coins, but also the first design of a monarch other than Elizabeth II to grace Canadian gold bullion, making history. His Majesty is set in a left profile relief with no crown while wearing a suit. It is standard for monarchs to switch faces when they change, when the design is changed. So the Elizabeth faced to her right, a face to the right, and Charles faces to the left. So there you have it. And of course, that's where his politics lie as well. And so there that is. It's quite apropos, I think, probably for both monarchs in that regard. And of course, you know, Charles is kind of more of a globalist, heavily involved in the World Economic Forum when he was prince. But nonetheless, the position of king is a non-political one, and at least it should be. Nonetheless, there you have it. That is the game-changing. It is a history-making portrait there of Charles III. And no matter what you say of King Charles, I actually think this is probably the best portrait that I've seen so far of the king. I like it even better than the Royal Mint portrait, and that one was a pretty good portrait as well. But nonetheless, what are your thoughts about this design? And this history-making moment, I have accumulated this. I got this from Monument Metals, this gold maple leaf at a very good price. And so I thought I'd share this with the members of the community. Don't know if this has been seen in a gold maple leaf before on YouTube. So hopefully this is a first for you to see it. But yes, indeed, history making in this gold bullion coin. The reverse, as we know, is the standard maple leaf with the radial line security features. And we can see here, if we look really close there, you can see indeed the maple leaf with the little 24. And then if you have the correct equipment and programming, you can see the Bullion DNA features that this coin offers, as well as another security measure. Nobody does it like the Royal Canadian Mint, in my view, in multiple different ways. They are second to none in terms of quality and design, and I think they did a very good job on this portrait of the king. I would love to see a day when we don't have monarchs on the Commonwealth coins anymore, but I think that is a long time from now before that happens. Let me know what your thoughts are about this news. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.